Hello everyone and welcome back to another tier list ranking video here on my channel. It's time for Supernova 2025, the Latvian national final for the Eurovision season. There are 20 songs in this selection, which makes it quite a big one in my opinion. There's a lot of songs to listen through and it takes some time, but now I've been giving all of these quite a few listens to really make up my mind what I think of the songs in this selection. A lot of the selections now have actually started to release their songs, so I think I need to kind of get a move on in trying to catch up with all of them before they actually take place, so I can make one of these videos for all of them. However, today all of the focus is on Latvia, it's on Supernova and the 20 songs in here, which I will just briefly discuss a little bit, share my thoughts on them and place them out on the tier list here that you can see on screen. And I'm just going alphabetically from... I just realized like they're not actually in alphabetical order here, are they? It's kind of a bit of a struggle for me to really... I'll have to search a little bit among these. That was actually really bad planning on my part, but I know exactly what song... I have them in alphabetical order based on the artist here, and I'll just be searching for them, I guess, here on screen as I go along. However, the first one is spot on, the first one here as well. This is Electric Love by Adelina, which is the first song on my list as well, and the first one I will talk about. And really the main thing that I think about this one is that I'm not particularly impressed with the overall execution of it, I suppose. I think that the instrumental isn't particularly challenging in this one. It's kind of all about the nostalgic synthwave vibe that they rely on in this song. Some catchy vocal lines for sure in here, absolutely, but I wouldn't say there's overall something particularly noteworthy in its ambition. I get that, like, if you're into this style of music, this might be kind of nice for you, but I don't think it's particularly outstanding in any regard and make it kind of like a heavy hitter in any area. Even if you're very fond of this type of music, I think that there are just so many different other songs out there that do more experimental or more intriguing things with it. I think this one's kind of by the books, which I'm a little bit disappointed by. As I said, there are some catchy vocal lines in here, and it has a bit of nice synth work, but overall I'm left with a lot to be desired from it. I'm placing this one in the D tier. I think that's kind of where I'd put it based on my preference, but it's not too bad, but I think there are better songs in the selection that speak more to me anyway. And one of those would be The Water, which is the next one here, by Bel Tempo and Legzdina. Sorry about the pronunciation on all of that. This one is a bit tricky for me to like just kind of think about how high up I want to put it on the list, because I find this song to be a bit monotonous, it is a bit pedestrian, but it's very pleasant overall at the same time. I think the instrumentation is very warm, it's inviting. I think vocally the song is really sweet, it's kind of harmless, and I really love this concept of the duet that they have here. They contrast each other really nicely, and it's one of these songs, like, if I'm in the right mood for it, I take it in a lot. I can just lay back and really embrace the warmth of it and the pleasant atmosphere of it, and I really like that. However, the song also passes me by maybe a little. I mean, it could, obviously, I think a lot of it will really come down to the performance, as with all of these songs, of course, but I think this song has a lot of potential and could be enhanced massively by a very intimate performance. But until that moment happens, I'll be a bit on the lenient side, or not on the lenient side, I'll be a bit on the restrained side and not hype my expectations up too much. I think it's very sweet, I think it's very pleasant. However, it's also one of these songs that I don't think is very remarkable in terms of its execution. It could absolutely be if the performance that it has along with it is properly intimate and just well lit and well presented. I'm placing this at a C right now. It's definitely much closer to a B than it is to a D, but I'll remain a bit, what do you say? A bit restrained at the moment, I suppose, and I'll hold back with the praise, because I think this song could absolutely easily be forgotten as well if it's not executed well enough here. Next up on my list anyway is Romance Isn't Dead by Chris Noah, and I find it right here, so I'm just moving it over here for now. So I'll be talking about it, and this one's kind of fun, I gotta say. I think it's a nicely arranged song, very strong instrumental in this one. Vocally, it's very straight to the point, and I appreciate that, absolutely. Has a lot of memorable melodic lines in here as well. Like in the chorus, there is this kind of yeah, yeah, yeah part, which I kind of dislike. I don't think that's a lot of fun. It feels a bit like like a necessity thing to put in, like you just need something. How should we fill up this last part of the line in the chorus? Let's just throw in some repeated yes. And those get a bit tiresome, I gotta say. I don't really like that aspect of it. But other than that, I think the song flows quite naturally. It has a purpose, I feel. Solid mixing on the song as well. I think the drumming really pushes the song forward, and the mixing has absolutely helped with that. It's a fun listen. I'm placing this one in the B tier. I think it's quite nice, but maybe not something extraordinary about it. But it's an enjoyable listen, and yeah, I'm pleased with that one. Next up is Ramtai by Citi, who of course are, can we call them Eurovision veterans? I don't know. Like, if you've been to Eurovision before, can you be considered a veteran? I'm not so sure. However, they're back with Ramtai, a bit of a different kind of approach to this year's song than, of course, last time. This one is very digital. Like, it's a proper kind of EDM club banger type of song, which is quite fun. I'm very fond of these kinds of songs if they really embrace the craziness and the creativity that the genre could absolutely include. The production quality of this track, I think, is very, very strong. I'm convinced by that. However, I think this song takes a little bit too long to really like embrace the energy of the composition that it has. It feels like at the very end of the song, you feel everything comes together, and I feel so rewarded by it. But leading up to that moment, I'm not sure if I'm completely on board with it all the time. Vocally, I think the song is quite restrained, and instrumentally, it kind of follows that early on, and I'm not sure if I really can kind of click with that approach throughout such a long period of time throughout the song. It's kind of also structurally a little bit underwhelming. There are sudden transitions and abrupt switch-ups. The ending of the song, I'll jump around a little bit, but the ending is also completely immediate, which is a bit of a letdown. However, some sections of the song are so much fun, and I mean, it's really catchy, it's really inviting. It's proper energy for a lot of the time as well, and I think this could be a proper like party tune when you see it live as well. A lot of positive things about it, I certainly think so, but just some things that hold it back for my personal enjoyment. I still think it's a lot of fun to listen to. I'm placing this one in the B tier as well. I'm actually placing it above Romance Isn't Dead because I think it's simply more fun to listen to. I realize as well, like now with the images here, that it's probably going to cover up a lot of the screen here if I do not separate the songs enough in the different tiers. We'll see how that will go. Anyway, I'm moving on to Heartbeat here by Emilija, which is, it's an interesting one, this one, I gotta say, because this really reminds me of something that maybe could have charted for a week or two back in like 2011 and then just disappear and be forgotten again. This kind of progressive house instrumental that it has, it is charming to me anyway. I like this kind of music, but I don't think it's particularly interestingly used here. The verses, they feel intimate, but I gotta admit, I kind of zone out of them a little bit as they feel a bit middle of the road to me anyway. Vocally, quite neat throughout. I think that's a strength of it. And the chorus is kind of catchy, but it's also, in my opinion, incredibly repetitive, which I do not enjoy. Could be a sweet performance on stage, absolutely, but I am skeptical towards this one. I'm incredibly underwhelmed by what I've heard so far, and I don't really connect with the energy of it. I think this is a little bit of an uninspired composition, really. I mean, the melodic repetition is on the underwhelming side, and I'm not very fond of that. There are aspects in here that I do enjoy, but at the moment I feel mostly disappointed with it. I'm going to placing this in the E tier. It's serviceable, it's fine, but I'm not particularly impressed with it. I'll have to be honest. Next up is Monster by Grēta or something. Very kind of, I wouldn't say standard or predictable, but it's an accessible pop tune, this one for sure. I think the song has a great groove, absolutely. It flows consistently as well throughout the song. The energy is there. Rhythmically, it just maintains that energy very nicely, I'd say. And this kind of hectic vocal arrangement that the song has kind of boosts the engagement of it all, I'd say. I think the song has a very disappointing breakdown that kind of kills the mood, which is unfortunate. But overall, when I listen to it all together, it's quite catchy. It's a foot tapper, absolutely. And altogether, it just comes across quite nicely. The production on it sounds pretty punchy and straight to the point. Maybe in an excessive manner at times. I feel like when I have it in my speakers, sometimes kind of feel like the bass presence is very heavy in the song. And I'm not sure if it needs to be. It could become a bit distracting. But when we see it live, I don't think that will really matter. it's going to be intriguing, at least to me, to see how this one's pulled off when we watch it in the show. For now, though, I do think this is quite a strong pop tune. I'm placing this one in the B tier as well. I think I'll just place it there because I don't particularly have a preference between this one and Romance Isn't Dead. I think both of them are just pretty great. So, yeah. Moving on to Julianna's Something in the Water here. You'll have to excuse the fact that it's a little bit distracting how they're ordered here. I already see that this one should be around there as well. Or even there, I think. Anyway, Something in the Water. Let's talk about that one. By Julianna here. This one is a bit interesting because it's obviously very reliant on ambiance and the atmosphere that it has. It has a very pretty soundscape, but the song at the same time kind of has a very limited amount of energy, and I think melodically it's quite forgettable, unfortunately. It could be kind of like a part of the concept behind the track as well, because it relies so much on what it wants to do instrumentally, and just the whole setting of the song. Like, it's somewhat atmospheric, and that's really what it sets out to be. But I think it needs to have kind of a combination of the two, like some kind of energetic approach in terms of rhythm, or some kind of melodic input that actually sticks with you, along with this atmospheric approach. I think that would be the ideal thing to come across with. And I'm not really clicking with that in this song. I don't think it really has the best of both worlds in that sense. But the vocals are quite neat. I mean, they have a very hollow tone to them, and this could be very, very touching, absolutely. But it could also be completely anonymous for some, I think. We'll just have to wait and see what it comes across as with the live performance. But at the moment, I'm intrigued by it. I think it has a place in here for sure. I'm not convinced. I don't return to listening to this one ever, really. But I'm looking forward to seeing how it will come across later on. Placing this one in the D tier as well. I think it has some nice aspects to it, but it's not quite all the way there for me. Next up is Fit Right by Justs. I don't know. I mean, he's also, a Eurovision veteran or whatever. And I gotta say, this song is a bit disappointing considering how great I found Heartbeat to be. That's one of my favorite songs from 2016. It's one of my favorite songs from Latvia. And, you really put the bar very, very high in terms of that. I think this song is kind of a nice follow-up. It's not too far away from being what Heartbeat was, but it has a lot of things that don't really connect as highly. However, this song should be looked at with its own merits, so I'll just consider that. And I think the verses of this song are quite energetic. There's a fun little synthwave concept throughout this song as well. In my speakers, the instrumental sounds a little bit muffled here, which is a bit of an odd one. I'm not sure if that's something wrong on my end, but it's not quite as convincing and clear as I probably wanted this to be. However, I think that will be compensated when we see the live performance from Justs here. Like, we know we've seen him before, how great he can be on a stage and how well he sings. So I'm just looking forward to that aspect of it. The choruses, they're kind of out of the ordinary in terms of the kind of cohesion to the verses. I think this rhythmic distinction that they have is a bit taken out of nowhere, but it's kind of charming at the same time. I think it adds some kind of catchiness to the song, but I don't think the song kind of has enough of a punch to emphasize this rhythmic pattern to make it as much fun as it probably wants to be. Still think this is a decent effort. I'm very much looking forward to seeing it, how it comes together live. But for now, I'm placing this one in the C tier. I think it's just spot on right in there. It's a solid effort that I'm looking forward to seeing more of. But at the moment, it's not one of the songs that I return to from the selection, I'll be honest. Something that I don't return to either will be Katrīna Gupalo's song Scarlett Challenger. I mean, I'm sure there's an audience for this somewhere out there, absolutely. It's a bit creative, it's a bit out of the ordinary, and it stands out from that aspect, but I'm just not part of that audience, I gotta be honest. This song sounds very dreamy, but at the same time I find it to sound also kind of snoozy early on, I suppose. It's a bit of a pedestrian, draggy beat early on, and then that leads into a very kind of randomly underproduced and plastic drum and bass beat that just adds some chaos later on. Feels a bit incohesive in that regard, and the production isn't really warranting this kind of approach in terms of its arrangement, I would say. The synth work in the song is kind of lifeless in my opinion. It's very drone-like and not particularly interesting. Has a strange structure, this song as well. When that drum and bass beat comes in, I feel a bit taken aback by it, and I'm not particularly enjoying it. And the hook of the song is really not something for me either. I find it quite irritating, unfortunately. Like, as I said, I'm sure there are people out there who are absolutely clicking with this. I just can't lie to myself and say that I do, because I certainly don't. I think this is a very odd listen. I don't find it particularly pleasant, and I'm not enjoying it. Simple as that. It feels harsh putting something in the F tier, but just for my personal preference, this is the one that I will just immediately go to the next song when I listen to it. Unfortunate. Maybe another time. Maybe there's something else from Katrina later on that will be more up my alley. For now, she'll have to appeal to someone else. Next up will be, let's see where I can find it. This one, Zelts by KoBra. And this song is intriguing, really. Like, I think that's the main thing. I think the song has a beautiful opening. Like, the first minute or so of the song is stunning. The harmonies that come in, they're just wonderful. I think they sing beautifully together. The thing is that I'm not really a fan of the digital approach during those choruses. I think that kind of takes me out of the whole pleasant mood of it all a little too much. I would have loved for this song to just be entirely acoustic, I gotta be honest with you, because it has such a beautiful setting to it that could have been just utilized in such an effective way that really would have hit with me. Maybe this approach will hit with others and they will consider it much greater than I do, but I think you could absolutely highlight the vulnerability of the track if it was solely acoustic, and that's really what I would have preferred, because some parts of this song, they just feel so stunning to me and beautifully delivered, really, in terms of both vocal and instrumental, that I just would have loved for them to embrace that even more. However, still, at the end of the day, I gotta say this is probably the A-tier song so far. It's my favorite out of the ones I have on screen right now. It's very pretty. I just have a few things that I would have liked them to do differently with it. Mainly this kind of digital production that it has. Would have preferred that to go in a different direction, but it is what it is. I still consider this one to be among the greatest in this selection, and it's going to be interesting to see how they pull it off live, for sure. Next up will be the song that's last up here, which is Stronger by Luka. And this one, I gotta be honest, it kind of passed me by a little bit. It doesn't really do anything wrong. It's just kind of harmless and in here. Doesn't do anything wrong. It doesn't really impress me either. It's just here. It's solid enough. I think it has some neat guitar work early on. I think vocally it's quite decent. There are some rewarding choruses in this song. However, instrumentally, I think it's a little underwhelming. It's structurally as well quite predictable. There is a melodically quite repetitive hook of the word stronger, kind of being elongated in a catchy way, but it's repeated so many times that I get a bit tired of it. And it is a tad anonymous within the selection, I would say. I mean, there are 20 songs. You need a lot of standout qualities to really make sure that the song stands out, which I don't think this one really has. It's still decent altogether. It doesn't do anything wrong. I'm placing it in the C tier. I think it fits quite nicely in there, but it's not one of the songs that have stuck with me. We'll see if that will change after I see it live. But for now, C tier for Stronger. Leading me into Markus Riva. Where is he? Here he is. Bigger Than This. I mean, this is Markus Riva's 32nd attempt in Supernova, I think. And like always, it's there and it's not too bad. But I mean, this isn't sticking with me either. I think this song has an annoyingly minimalistic hook, unfortunately. I think like the approach that Markus Riva has taken this year is a bit out of the ordinary, because it's kind of going for this EDM type of inspiration in these choruses, which is kind of nice, but I think the minimalism of these choruses is very underwhelming and quite disappointing. I don't think the energy is really there from that aspect. There is a little bit of fun, like bouncy piano input here that makes the hook a little bit more effective, which is a nice touch to it. Vocally, I find the song to be, just fine. It's quite predictable, but it's also just kind of accessible and decent. Overall, I think the song maybe is kind of just very inoffensive, but ultimately also quite forgettable. I think the worst part of the song absolutely has to be like this breakdown or like the ending part of the song. A lot of off-putting effect work being put on it, which I do not enjoy. Overall, I think this is just kind of straight up a D tier song. I do not think it's one of the stronger songs in the selection, but maybe this will be Markus's year. Who knows? If it is, I'd be a bit underwhelmed by it, however. Next up is Marta's song Lovable, and this one, it has, at times I feel like, there's absolutely something in here. I think there are decent ideas in the instrumental. I think it's professionally produced for sure. It sounds quite decent altogether, and the vocals work really well with the beat and the verses, I would say. However, the choruses are awful is a very strong word, but that's really what I'm feeling, because this annoying repetitive hook is just really off-putting for me. I do not enjoy it in the slightest. I think the choruses just need to get cut out of the song, and then it would be a somewhat pleasant listening experience. But the continuous repetition of the word lovable, 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 it's very unlovable for me anyway. I find this to be a very underwhelming composition because of it, which is a shame because the verses has potential, instrumentally it has potential as well, but the hook is killing all enjoyment out of it for me anyway. Placing this one in the E tier, has redeeming qualities, but not particularly enjoyable for me anyway. Next up will be the song by Palú, which is called Delusional, which has a rhythmically distinct chorus, for sure. That's something about it. But the song feels a bit incohesive to me at the same time. I'm not really sure what the whole kind of purpose or approach here is supposed to do. Even though it tries to really hammer down the rhythm of these choruses, I don't find this to be particularly memorable, which could be a me issue, but I'm kind of letting this one go because it hasn't never really grabbed my attention enough. It's not a very polished song. It feels a bit chaotic, and ultimately what I end up doing is just kind of that I zone out of it. I'm not really sure what to make of it. I think it's here and it's kind of making up the numbers, unfortunately. It could absolutely work for some people. That kind of rhythmic intensity that the choruses have, that could be catchy, absolutely. I've just never been able to find it catchy. I'm placing this one in the E tier as well. It's kind of there for me, I suppose. Next up, I'm moving around a little bit. Chemical by Rūta Dūduma is the next one here. And this song kind of has a smooth flow to it. It's neat enough, but again, this one I feel is quite anonymous as well, unfortunately. I mean, the drum and bass input that it has is kind of cool, but it doesn't sound particularly polished, which I think detracts from the song. And melodically, this one is quite underwhelming as well. It's not one of these songs that really stick with me. I kind of hear it once, then I, kind of put it to the side, and then I need to hear it again to really remember many qualities about it. I remember the little drum and bass beat, but due to the fact that it's not really that punchy and polished, I don't think that it really elevates the song in any way. And again, it's just kind of an E tier song for me, I suppose. So I'm placing it, I don't know, there, maybe. I think I prefer it over Delusional, but this is tricky for me. And the E tier is definitely getting stacked now. We got 5 songs to go. I'll start off with Sinerģija's Bound by the Light. And this one's kind of cool, at least in my opinion. I think the song is very atmospheric, which is really nice. It has a lovely instrumentation to it that I think they embrace quite nicely as well. I'd say that the song is lacking a little bit of energy and progression. You don't really feel like the song is developing to some extent. Could absolutely be a stunning performance on stage, and I really hope it will be, because I am captivated by the concept of the song and the arrangement of it. And I really wish they will kind of embrace that and just have a beautiful setting. The beautiful setting of the track will be utilized in the live performance as well. Some setbacks, I think, probably, as I said, the lack of energy and sense of progression and development. Also melodically a little on the repetitive side, which I'm not overly fond of. The song never really goes anywhere noteworthy and just kind of relies on the same concept a bit too much throughout. I think this could have a neater development to really just elevate this song and make it more impressive. As it is right now, they embrace the setting of it quite nicely, and that is an enjoyable aspect. I'm placing this one in the B tier. I think it's difficult to kind of sort these. I'm placing it there for now. That might not be completely accurate, but for now, it'll be on that place, basically. Next up will be the song by, Tautumeitas, and it's called Burman laimi. Yes, indeed. This is a conceptually really cool and remarkable effort. I gotta say, there is a lot of creativity within this one that I appreciate. I'm quite fond of that aspect. Is it an enjoyable listen though? I'm not so sure. I don't find it to be that. What do you say? I don't find myself returning to this one as much as maybe they sought out to be, because like absolutely conceptually it has so many standout aspects about it, and it stands out in comparison with the competition, but there's just something like melodically and structurally that I'm just not particularly fond of that makes me not return to it. It's vocally very, very ambitious and I like that, but the minimalistic instrumentation that it has supporting it kind of forces these vocals to carry this song forward, and perhaps a little bit more of a dynamic or a contrast in that regard would have made it more applicable to me, perhaps. Melodically, this one just doesn't stick with me, and that, I mean, maybe it's not supposed to, but it detracts from my enjoyment of the song. I'm still placing this one in the C tier, and I think it has enough kind of creative aspects about it for me to put it right there in the C tier, but I think it could have been a bit more for me anyway, and could have been more mainly dynamic, I probably would say. That would be the standout kind of critique that I have. I think that's really the main thing. But still nice one. Nice to have it in the selection as well. I'd be interested to see how they execute that in the live performance as well. As I move on to Sadzejot by Tepat. Something that I really like is the fact that we get a lot of native language songs in this selection. That's a big plus, I gotta say. The fact that I can't pronounce them, that's a completely different thing. But this one, remarkable composition, I have to say. This one is very enjoyable to me. I think the arrangement is very huge. The instruments are well played and they combine beautifully in this song. I think at the very end, when everything comes together, I would like a little bit of an upgrade in terms of the punchy impact that it has. This full chorus really needs to completely pop and be very impressive and grand and like convincing in terms of clarity, I would say, when it actually comes in. Because right now the production kind of creates a little bit of a muffled collective sound to it, which I would have personally preferred it to be much more clearer, and actually that would just convince me a bit more. Right now it's fine, but it's not this wow impressive factor during that final chorus that I think the song builds very nicely towards and could absolutely be more hard-hitting in that aspect. The song overall, it's atmospherically very compelling, and I think the outro of the song is wonderfully pretty. Like, it's such a beautiful outro that I really wish would have taken up even more space of the song, to be completely honest. I understand that you can't, exceed the 3-minute rule, but the outro is, it's like a warm embrace, really, and it's so pretty. I'm placing this one in the A tier, probably above Zelts, actually. I enjoy this one immensely. However, one thing that I enjoy even more has to be Līgo here by the Ludvig. I mean, this is a standout. It's so remarkable and it's so noteworthy and it's so impressive. This lovely blend of styles is done in such a cohesive manner that I'm just kind of floored by it, if I'm going to be completely honest. It's very creative, it's very ambitious, and it's also very well executed with all of this ambition in it. I think the verses, like this first verse, I would probably like that to return a little bit more throughout the song, actually, because the first verse has a wonderful energy to it. Nice groove, melodic flow is top tier, the rhythm of it really works. This great flow that the verses have with a very strong vocal, it's just so enjoyable to me. Then that leads into this really effective hook, like both in terms of the vocals and the backing track providing the character to this different vocal approach. I mean, it's this kind of choir that comes in through the choruses that really is the hook of the song, and those parts are of course very remarkable and very outstanding. Perhaps they become a bit too much throughout the song. I would have probably liked the verse vocal to actually be a bit more included throughout, but it is what it is right now. It's not even a nitpick at this point, because I'm just overwhelmed by the enjoyment that I feel from the song regardless, so it doesn't matter. This song is non-stop enjoyable for me. It's refreshing throughout. You never really know what kind of turn or twist it will take when you listen to it, unless you've heard it before, of course, because then you know where it's going. However, it's unpredictable, it's tons of fun, I can't wait to see it on stage. I gotta put it up here, it's the S tier song of Supernova. Yeah, I hope it'll be so great. Now, the final song of the selection is Domāju by Toms Kalderauskis. And one thing that I could have done here is just place it in the D tier to make sure that everything looks neat and tidy on the tier list. However, I'm not going to do that because I think too highly of this song. I think this song has some lovely vocals, some neat piano work. Perhaps it won't really leave a huge impression on most with its kind of pedestrian studio cut, but I think the song is just solid all around, and it could be a very beautiful moment on stage with the right lighting, the right presentation. I think vocally it already sounds like it's going to sound great. So I'm just looking forward to seeing that. I hope they can absolutely embrace the pretty setting of the track when they present it live as well. Mainly, I think it needs the lighting to be spot on, but also the camera work, of course, needs to click. This could be a very beautiful moment. At the moment, I think it's a very pretty song. I see a lot of potential in it. It's not melodically too memorable, but I don't think it really sets out to be. It sets out to be quite emotionally loaded and a nice little ballad that just kind of kicks into gear towards the end as well. Has a nice final chorus to it. I think this is absolutely a C tier song. I'm placing it right in the middle of the C tier, and that will be the end of the tier list. And yeah, maybe I'm completely off with the general consensus regarding this selection. If I am, let me know. And of course, let me know mainly what's your favorite song. Who are you rooting for in this year's Supernova? And have I been very harsh on someone who I shouldn't have been very harsh on? Let me know that as well. Either way, these are just my thoughts, my subjective preference of all of the songs. And my preference doesn't really mean squat at the end of the day anyway, because we'll get a winner, and whoever it is, I'll be okay with that. And I'll be reviewing that one in more detail later on in the Eurovision season, I suppose, like I've done with a few of the other, or like I've done with the winners so far from Montenegro and from Albania. Granted, the winner from Montenegro wasn't actually the one that I've reviewed, but I'm rambling, I'm sorry. Thank you for watching this video, take care of yourselves until I hopefully see you again very soon, and bye for now.